Pest, an intimidating figure in the production and preservation of crops and even food. An accepted impulse has led many farmers to fall on pesticides as savior of this natural disaster. Pesticide is any substance that is used to prevent, control and destroy pests such as insects, weeds, rodents and crop-related diseases. Pest refers to any organism, plant or animal causing harm or damage to crops, underproduction or stored produce. As a matter of fact, crop pests are a massive threat to most fruits, vegetables and crop farmers, as this causes a lot of post-harvest losses. Unfortunately, the application of pesticides has become a more dangerous approach rather than a remedy. In recent market searches and consumer interview, we gather that the wrong application of mishandling pesticides goes a long way to affect the end user in the value chain.
Your vegetables near fruits, you know.
Before our vegetables and fruits reach us, they are so unnatural. Our customers complain of tasting chemicals in the vegetables and fruits we sell. The complaints are rampant. We are losing markets and losing money. So, we plead with our farmers to be more accurate when applying pesticides on their crops. Their actions affect us in the long run. This is our gentle plea. We are pleading with our farmers to be precise when using these chemicals. Our customers are complaining. They say our tomatoes, onions and pepper have lost their richness. They have become almost foodless. The tomatoes are too watery and they perish fast. That means our loan debts are increasing. If the application is such a hurdle, then they should quit and resume their old methods of farming.
Actually, these days, vegetables on the market, they have changed in taste, because sometimes you go home, wash them and all that, and you can still taste the chemicals in them. I don't know if it has to do with the farmers not dispensing the pests or whatever well, but they have to be looked at, because it is not good for family consumption and for the children as well. It is giving us much more health issues than any other thing on the market.
The Ghana Commercial Agriculture Project, GCAP, is a Government of Ghana project under the auspices of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and funded by the World Bank and United States Agency for International Development.
A key objective of GCAP is to improve agricultural production and productivity of smallholder as well as nucleus farmers in selected areas in Ghana. And as part of environmental safeguards, the project, GCAP collaborates with PPRSD of Ministry of Agriculture to educate farmers on the safe use of pesticides.
The misuse and misapplication of pesticides is a national concern as it impacts negatively on the environment, biodiversity and human health. It is against this backdrop that GCAP, as part of its safeguard measures, has decided to fund the production of this video documentary on the safe use and handling of pesticides to enhance continuous education of farmers and the public in general.
It is our hope and expectation that this investment will further enhance PPRSD's role in Ghana's agricultural production.
Plant Protection and Regulatory Services Directorate, also known as PPRSD, is a directorate under the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. We derive our mandate from the Plants and Fertilizer Act 2010, Act 803. PPRSD provides technical advice and support to farmers and other stakeholders in the management of pests and diseases in the production of crops.
Madame Juliana Achu, living and farming in Pochonu, a suburb of Ada, is a breadwinner of a family of 7 and the oldest farmer in the community.
As I am saying, buying foodstuff is easy for me because I grow most of my food myself. I only buy little to complement what I already have, and I'm able to help other farmers as well. Farming has always been in my family. I've been farming for 30 years long.
Likewise, Mr. Al Hassan, a vegetable farmer and a crop exporter.
Okay, the whole farm,
The whole farm accounts to approximately 500 hectares of irrigation land. The total number of farmers on the land is about 200, and collectively, we grow a mixture of tomatoes, okra, pepper, and garden eggs.
We realized that farmers were not handling pesticides properly.
Pests are a massive threat to our produce. You can farm a large land and harvest as little as a handful. For most of us, our first intervention was to purchase a pesticide from the shop. That was the only way out before.
Before PPRSD training,
Before PPRSD's training, all we knew was to go to any chemical shop and purchase any pesticide for our crops. Also, we didn't know the right protective clothing. We were ignorant of the fact that as we were spraying to manage the pests, we were as well harming ourselves.
Best 2 years ago.
2 years ago, I lost my uncle. He was diagnosed with stomach cancer. Further results from the doctors proved that the cause was due to the constant exposure to some of these pesticides.
So we saw the need to build their capacity in addition to that of the Agric Extension agents so that they will be at the forefront of training other farmers. The area that we realized there were short for is the safe handling of pesticides.
In this film, we explore the dangers of mishandling pesticides, how it is best practiced, and most importantly, to trigger a revolution in the preservation of food and thus mankind.
In this vein, PPRSD, Crop Life, and EPA came together to build capacity of these people, these farmers, and the Agric Extension agents nationwide.
Identification of the target pest. For Madame Juliana, just as most farmers, the test is identifying the type of crop pest and the type of pesticides needed to cure the plants. The signs of damage vary, typically depending on the way the insects feed on the plant. Farmers are advised to immediately consult agricultural extension agents and plant doctors when confronted with a pest problem. These experts know the importance of a speedy response.
We only advise the use of pesticides when there's an outbreak of pest. Other than that, pesticides should be the last resort to manage pest. And if you use pesticides to manage the pest, you should be able to know the WHO has a class of the pesticide. You have the class 1, class 1A, and then class 3, and then unclassified.
Scouting. Field monitoring or scouting is crucial to all pest management programs. Crop scouting is the process of precisely assessing pest pressure and crop performance to evaluate economic risk from pest infestations and diseases, as well as to determine the potential effectiveness of pest and disease control interventions. Understanding the differences between pesticides, their forms and uses is essential to ensure correct, safe and effective application.
Some of the types of pesticides that we use in our agricultural activities include insecticides for controlling insects. We use weedicides for controlling weeds in the farms. We also use bactericides to control bacterial diseases and fungicides to control fungal diseases in our crops.
Acquisition of pesticides. The application of pesticides demands that pesticides should be purchased from the right source and safely transported to the farm site.
We have these registered input dealers that have been properly trained by EPA, PPRSD, and CropLife Ghana to sell chemicals that have been registered and approved for use in Ghana. And these people can be identified by the certificates that they display in their shops.
The most important source of information about a pesticide is on the label. Manufacturers are required to provide information regarding the products there. Other things to also look out for before purchase is 1. Make sure you buy from a registered pesticide shop. 2. Buy registered product by looking out for the EPA registration number. 3. Check for manufacturing and expiry date of the pesticide. 4. Make sure products are in their original containers with the label in English language. 5. Be sure the seal is not leaking or broken. Transportation of pesticides. Pesticides, depending on the type and rating, can be poisonous, corrosive, flammable, or even explosive. One must be very careful and observe safety measures when transporting from the shop or from the farm site. Do not transport pesticides with passengers. Do not transport pesticides together with foodstuff. Do not transport pesticides together with livestock. Selection of pesticides application equipment. The application of pesticides is not merely the operation of sprayer or duster. It has to be coupled with a thorough knowledge of the pest problem. When selecting a sprayer, be certain that it will deliver the proper rate of pesticide uniformly over the target surface. Choose the right spraying equipment for the right job. For example, knapsack sprayers for annual crops, mixed blowers for tree crops. Select the right nozzle for the right job. For example, hollow cone nozzles for insecticides and reflex nozzles for weedicides. Check spraying equipment for leakages and repair if necessary. Make sure straps of spraying equipment are in good condition. Spray tank sieves should be in place to sieve out particles from spray tanks in order to avoid nozzle blockage. Calibrating.
At this point in time, it is very necessary to see your agriculture extension agent to help you calibrate. Calibration basically is the process of determining the quantity of pesticides to be applied to a given crop area.
Personal protective equipment. Pesticides can enter the body in 4 ways: through the skin, the eyes, the mouth and nose. Atrazine, for example, is a herbicide for corn, but may be fatal if swallowed, inhaled or absorbed through the skin. It should therefore be the topmost priority of any applicator to have on his personal protective equipment, PPE, before attempting to administrate a pesticide application process. The PPE are specified clothes and equipment used by the pesticide applicator to protect himself against pesticide exposure. The PPE must be worn in this order: overall to protect your body from pesticides exposure, Wellington boots to protect the feet, respirators to avoid exposure through inhalation of pesticides, goggles to protect your eyes and face from exposure, hats and caps to protect the head, and gloves to protect your hands.
Because cotton and leather gloves can absorb the pesticide solution and contaminate the skin, it is advised that farmers use gloves made of rubber.
Mixing the pesticide.
We realized that the farmers were mixing their chemical products in any place in the farm, and it's not the best. So there's the need for them to have a location, a place where one particular place that they can mix the chemical products before they do their spraying. It has problem for those who will be working in the farm and those who will be passing by if they are mixing anyhow, anywhere in the farm. There's contamination issue there. People who will be working in the farm could be contaminated any time.
Get your PPEs on. 2. Gather your knapsack, measuring cylinder, the pesticide to be applied, and water.
Clean water is key. You have to get clean water, not any type of water, because if you use muddy water, it reduces the potency of the chemical onto the crop.
3. Fill the knapsack tank halfway with water. 4. Shake pesticide before measuring the recommended tank dose into the sprayer tank. 5. Top up with water to the full tank capacity.
Shake it, then you start your spraying.
For safety and security reasons, we advise that spraying should be done in pairs.
Applying the pesticide.
1. Make sure you have your full PPEs on. 2. Check the wind direction. 3. Avoid spraying against the wind direction to minimize the risk of pesticide exposure. 4. Spray in the morning and late afternoon to avoid the harsh sunny weather. 5. Do not eat, drink or smoke during spraying. 6. Do not blow air with your mouth to clear blocked nozzles during spraying. 7. Wash immediately in case of pesticide spill. 8. Get your first aid kit in place.
Before you spray, 1. Use the results from your calibration to determine the speed, pressure, and the exact centimeter from your nozzle to the target surface. 2. Take uniformed steps. 3. Monitor your spraying pressure and keep your spraying speed constant. 4. Check that the spray is reaching the target surfaces. 5. Spray steadily. 6. Walk slightly to one side of the spraying nozzle to avoid contact with the spraying vegetation. Pre-entry period and a pre-harvest period. Every pesticide has a pre-entry period and a pre-harvest period. All these are indicated on the label.
And it is just to inform whoever is going to apply the pesticides that there's a period, a period range that when you spray the pesticides, you are not allowed to harvest 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks before you harvest, because by then it is assumed that all the chemicals have been broken down and then it will not have any effect on the fruit or the vegetable that you are harvesting. It is criminal if you do that, and if you are caught, you can be prosecuted for that, because then it means you are poisoning people.
Disposal of pesticide containers. Empty pesticide containers can be as harmful as when full. It is all a question of how much you are exposed to and how exposed you are.
Even used and empty pesticide containers can be harmful to the environment. We advise farmers not to dispose of it indiscriminately, but to dispose of empty pesticide containers, triple rinse with water. And punch with a cutlass to avoid reuse. Store at a secured place for collection by PPRSD or EPA officers.
I will also advise that if you don't do that and you leave the pesticide containers on your farm, people are also going around collecting these empty pesticide containers and they are putting in concoctions, things that are not pesticides, and they will come and sell it back to you, the farmer. Make sure that after using the container, you slash it and then you take it to the district office for us to come and collect.
You can also send back the empty pesticide containers to the seller, the dealer, or the shop you bought from.
At any point in time, all empty pesticide containers come to us. They are triple rinsed with industrial detergents to take off all chemical residues from the bottles. The labels are taking off, the caps are taking off, and all aluminium foils and all foreign materials are taking off the bottle. And they are rinsed and triple rinsed to make sure all residues are also out of the bottle. And this is how a clean, empty pesticide container looks like. And this is what is taken in for shredding into flakes.
Things to do after spraying. After spraying, immediately wash the spraying equipment. The same amount of precision when putting on your PPEs should be applied when taking off your protective clothes. Wash your clothes and take a bath. Storage of pesticides and equipment. It is important that pesticides and spray equipment be safely separated and securely stored. Store pesticides in their original containers. Do not store pesticides together with foodstuff. Do not store pesticides in your bedroom or under your beds. Store pesticides out of reach of children and the general public. Store pesticides under lock and key.
Inappropriate use and handling of pesticides can endanger the ecosystems, human health, and animal life. Some of the effects can be in acute and chronic forms. In the case of the human health, the acute forms be in the form of headache, dizziness, vomiting, diarrhea. We recommend immediate medical attention if pesticide exposure occurs.
Farmers are also required to follow the first aid instructions on the pesticide container label.
What I realized over time is, when you apply pesticides and you do not protect yourself, you are exposed to inhale the pesticide. But once you cover your nose with respirators, you can't even smell the pesticides. So it's always best to protect yourself.
Pesticides is one of the tools used in the management of crop pests and diseases. Although it is a useful tool, it can be harmful to the user. So it's important for the user to know how to handle and use it safely.
Not only the user, but also our environment stands at a huge risk of air and water pollution, which affects and destroys aquatic living organisms and beneficial insects in the farm if pesticides are applied and handled wrongly. To correct this massive ecological ravel, farmers are encouraged to 1. Critically assess crop pest situation before deciding to use pesticides. 2. Carefully scout and ascertain the kind of pest and the appropriate pesticide to use. 3. Consult your agri-extension officers or PPRSD agents to help and assist at any point necessary, especially through calibration and mixing. 4. Put on your PPEs and observe all safety and health protocols while spraying. 5. Triple rinse, destroy and dispose all empty pesticide containers appropriately to avoid reuse and pollution. 6. Finally, separately and securely store pesticides and all equipment and the lock and key.
I know that farming is very beneficial, so with all this knowledge, I wish to stay healthy as a farmer and pass on this duty to my son, the duty of safe farm practices and providing safe and healthy food not only to a family, but to the community and the nation, because I believe good food builds a nation.
This is the realization of a heroic duty. It is an assurance of better food, environment and human health, and a demonstration of patriotism to country and to earth.